from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked, and I'm delighted to be joined once more by Craig here. How's it going, Craig?
Very well, Joel. How are you?
Yes, not too bad, not too bad. You are very well because all your equipment is in working order, and this is why we are doing a recording rather than a live, because we wanted to essentially test everything was A-okay, which so far this episode will. It's just going to be a shorter one. We'll be discussing the foundation of Hearts vote that took place last night. We'll look ahead to the League Cup group stage draw, which happens tomorrow. Unfortunately, Hearts are involved in that. And we might talk about Derek McInnes' comments yesterday with Favour Sports about just players and Lawrence Shankland. However, we will be doing longer live episodes tomorrow and potentially Friday. We're going to hopefully do one with a look at the squad analysis. Tomorrow, I've got hopefully a piece going up tomorrow morning on that, just analysing all the different areas of the squad. And then on Friday, we'll try and do a season award show, picking out some good moments if we can find them, and then obviously some bad moments as well. But first, Heart Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across London and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. So the biggest bit of news so far this week has been the announcement by the Foundation of Hearts on Monday that Tony Bloom's investment proposal has been approved, and significantly so. So Foundation of Hearts members had until 5 p.m. last night to cast their vote whether they backed Tony Bloom's £9.86 million investment proposal for 29% of the club, or if they didn't back that. However, as expected, they did, and of the 6,208 votes cast, so around a 70% turnout, only 96 were against, so 98.5% were in favour of Bloom's proposal. Craig, that is quite a statement in terms of the percentages.
Yeah, first of all, the percentage that voted in favour, I think that... Oh, sorry, we'll go with the turnout first. The turnout, I think that was maybe the most significant one, because in the past, most memorably, the most recent vote, there was a very poor turnout. I think, was it in the 30s or something like that? Now, this is a much more...
No, so it was like 1,300 or something.
Oh, was it? No, 30s in the 30%.
Oh, sorry, percent. Yeah. Sorry, yeah. I was confused. Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm not entirely sure about that. That's going off the top of my head. I can't remember. It was a very poor turnout. This one was, I mean, to me, slightly surprisingly high because of how poor the one was the last time. I think that it being a more high-profile kind of decision about the club is definitely a factor. It'd be interesting to know how much of that. There has been a bit more of a push recently to communicate more from the Foundation at Hearts' side. And while it's impossible to tell, it'd be interesting to know how much of their increased efforts at communication have kind of played a part. Like the town halls, that wasn't what I was looking for. The consultation period and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think the most significant thing, I think we knew it was going to get passed. And regarding the 98.5% or whatever it is, they only went with a simple majority, which I don't know if that was in anticipation of it maybe being a lot tighter than it was, because they didn't feel that they had to build into that the need to have a significant majority.
So that goes back to the previous vote, where
or have a certain turnout on top, because you can have different sort of things built into it. Sorry.
So that goes back to the previous vote where they had to, where the vote at the AGM was around the thresholds that needed to pass. And so that's why it was just, I think it was around, because of those thresholds, that it came down to just 50%. But the threshold could have been 90%, and it was still passed. It would have still passed easily. But yeah, I think you're right to bring up the turnout and refer back to, so the two votes at the AGM were around the candidates. So they were looking to bring on, basically that's when Jerry Mallon and continued to have his seat, and Claire Hammond and Gary Locke got got voted on, and then it was around the thresholds, and the combined votes of both were still like 500 fewer than the whole votes in the for this one. And I do think, just because I think it's been much more kind of like headline news, whereas like if you go back to the vote that was kind of to do with this investment proposal back at the AGM, it was still. It wasn't very sexy, was probably the best way to put it, because it was looking at thresholds, and there was a lot of like admin words, and it was at times quite confusing. Whereas this was just a simple yes or no, do you support this? And because of the ramifications of it, that there was like numbers that you put on it, £10 million investment,
a big headline figure, exactly.
Big headline figure. So people really took an interest in this, and I think it just shows the feeling within the fans of how much they're keen to have Bloom part of the club, and hopefully tap into the successes he's had elsewhere.
Part of it is definitely the draw of Bloom as well, because if you look at all kind of like potential investors now, I know if you look at certain clubs down south, you can see the likes of Tom Brady getting involved and all those kind of things. But short of celebrity, Tony Bloom is one of the more well-known figures you'd think from like business community wise. So that will definitely have had an impact as well. Not only is it £10 million, it's £10 million from Tony Bloom, who's had proven relative success with Brighton and tangible success more recently, although as a minority stake with Union Saint-Gilloise. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it's that I'm writing something just now about USG's success and what maybe Hearts can learn from it, and that's kind of how it started. It was kind of tied in around the vote, and then 24 hours prior that USG won the Belgian league, and I think it's really given Hearts something to inspire to and an example to follow, because I think USG are a much more relevant comparison than Brighton. Brighton is just because of where, like, Brighton's been a longer period, and their success is different to maybe USG and Hearts' success because they're in the Premier League and what they have to do there. But yeah, and I think it is because of going back to like the vote, and you talked about it, that it was so it won so much approval because of that track record. Whereas I think we obviously seen it. There were still fans there that may be a wee bit cautious, or even if they voted in favour, some were probably still cautious because of the club's history. And I do think that if it was maybe someone else looking to invest and they didn't have the track record with Tony Bloom, I think it would have been a harder sell, and you would have seen those the voting more not quite so significant and not quite so much in favour.
Yeah, if it had just been a sort of unknown English businessman that was taking his first venture into football or something like that, then yes, you could automatically see there would be much more suspicion.
And in terms of what's next, because we're just going to go over old ground if we keep speaking about it, but what's next is there'll be an EGM. I'm not sure when that will be. That will be for Hearts to essentially officially approve it, and then it needs to be and then it needs to be ratified by the Scottish FA as well. But Tony Bloom's already been up to Glasgow and been to the SFA to do whatever he's required to do to push that along. But obviously Hearts will want to do it sooner rather than later, because then they can get that investment from Tony Bloom, and hopefully we'll find out more about what that money has been used for. That is the more positive news from this week. The less positive news is something you've written up today, and that is the League Cup group stage draw is taking place tomorrow. Craig, talk us through it.
Yeah, those who thought they had put it firmly behind them were wrong. It is back. It's probably, since, just to kind of give a wee bit of a sort of about the mood around it in Scottish football for the Hearts fans who haven't been, rightfully so, haven't paid attention to it for the last 4 years or whatever. It seems to have gone a little bit stale. I think it might have the last time Hearts were in it. I think it was sort of getting to that point. There's You mentioned it in one of your articles recently. Hearts were no different. You tend to, especially when it was regionalised, you saw a lot of the same opponents a lot of the time. There's little joy from a midweek game going to a draw and then to a penalty shootout. Sometimes means nothing, meaningless penalty shootout.
We were involved in one of the most famous when we got beat by Dunfermline and missed all the penalties when Ian Caffrey got sacked.
At least that was an afternoon one, I believe, or
that was
a late afternoon one, but it was a televised match. Yeah, but yeah, there's from covering them over the last couple of years, it's really bad when you're at Dumbarton and Wraith draw 0-0 with them, and then you watch a penalty shootout, and then you've still got to do all your interviews and all that kind of stuff. It's sometimes not that fun, and I imagine that's the same for away fans who like to go to every game and that kind of thing. There'll be some matches that will be a bit of a slog, but it's other than the regionalisation going, it's pretty much the same format. We could maybe I should have done this, but. Before we came on, maybe should have got a graphic of the groups and things like that. Not the groups, the pots. So there's going to be.
I can if you want to talk about that just now. I can quickly do that.
Perfect. Right. There's 5 pots. There's going to be 8 groups, each made up of 5 teams, 1 from each pot. Hearts are in pot 1, and it just goes by seeding. It's pretty much as you would expect. There's a few kind of things that are a wee bit. St Johnstone are in pot 1 and Livingston are in pot 2, for instance, but that's just because of where the kind of based on last season. I think it's like something based on like the standards last season or something like that. So the teams that are qualified for Europe will not be in it. They will join the last 16. I'm sure most people know this kind of stuff. And pot 2. Livingston, Ayr United, Partick Thistle, Wraith Rovers, Greenock Morton, Dunfermline Athletic, Queen's Park and Airdrie. I was thinking that Queen's Park probably be the one you'd pick out of that, given how poorly they've ended the season and their documented financial troubles. You could maybe say Dunfermline as well, but they might sort themselves out a wee bit more. You'd probably want to be avoiding Livingston, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's more when I'm looking at all these pots. And I've put up on the screen now, when I'm looking at these pots, I just look at the ones that I would like to avoid. For example, I know I'm kind of skipping ahead, but selfish, I think for Hearts fans, if obviously there'll be 2 away games, 2 home games, but they'll be looking at something like Ayr United would be a nice away day. Pot 3, Hamilton, no. If we're going to draw against Hamilton, would you want them at home? But selfishly, I would quite like Kelty Hearts, for example, and
Hearts Derby.
Yeah, Hearts Derby and East Kilbride in pot 5 and Kelty Hearts in pot 3 because they're 2 grounds that I've not been to and it would allow me to complete the 42.
Right, fair enough. I would also like to go to East Kilbride, but I would probably the team that I'd want to avoid in pot 5. I think East Kilbride are not only probably the strongest team in pot 5, they're going to want to prove a point, I think, going into this competition. I think they're going to want to start strong. They're going to be one of the favourites for League 2. So I think Hearts could probably do with avoiding any chance of an embarrassment against away to East Kilbride. That was it. No, it was Darvel. Sorry, I was going to say did Aberdeen lose away to them, but it was Darvel. It was the same manager, but a different team. Kind of skipped over a couple there. Arbroath's a decent away day as well. I suppose it would depend when and the weather. I think Inverness are probably one to avoid there. I think they're a wee bit better than their season would have suggested.
And also for the fact that Hearts played them 3 times in 5 seasons in the League Cup prior to qualifying for Europe. So yeah, anyone, but the thing is when we did play Inverness, it was always at home as well. So it wasn't really, you got a trip to Highlands. So
that's one I've never been to.
Oh, there you go. And it's having done Dingwall, it just feels so much shorter because you don't have to do that last wee stretch to Dingwall.
And I'm already in Dundee. And then pot 4, I would say, again, it depends on what kind of work they do and stuff, but I think Montrose or Spartans are maybe who you're looking for there. Or Dumbarton maybe, actually, as well. And then, I don't know.
just for Hearts fans, I would hope that if there was an away day, Montrose or Annan would be fantastic for Hearts fans, because both are excellent wee lower league grounds and excellent days on the train as well. So they're the ones I would suggest keeping an eye out for, and obviously the potential for Edinburgh City or the Spartans as Edinburgh derbies. I'll use two quote marks there.
Well, Edinburgh City is possibly the worst away day in the country.
Yeah.
The novelty of it might be okay, actually. I mean, Hearts fans might embrace the novelty of it, but it's a terrible view wherever you are, and it's just, I don't know. People know what it's like. It's just so open, and it's a weird place to play your football.
I was there for their playoff match against East Fife, and the novelty lasted all of about 3 minutes. I've been watching it from the side, so yeah, that's not one that's ideal for away fans. But yeah, the fact that we're discussing this is just depressing, because I haven't been in Europe for the last 3 years. So Craig, what do fans need to know about in terms of like draw, how they can watch it, and etc.
The draw's tomorrow. We're recording this on Tuesday. The draw is Wednesday at 1 p.m. You can watch it on Premier Sports. You can watch it on the SPFL YouTube channel, and I believe the Premier Sports YouTube channel. It kicks off on the weekend of the 12th of July, and it's pretty much weekend, midweek. You play 4 of the 5 match days, given that it's 5-team groups, and it ends by the end of July. Finals in December as well, so it's all over very, very quickly. Was there anything else that you'd asked me in that question?
Nah, all good. I think that's. I would imagine that Hearts would likely try it again. I don't know how much influence they would have, but likely try and play the game, their first 4 games, and then potentially have a bigger friendly the week before the season starts. But obviously,
do you get to choose?
That's what I'm not sure. That's why I wasn't sure if that was the case. But
yeah, I'm not sure if clubs negotiate themselves, or I just assumed that you were handed a fixture list.
That's what I thought as well, but I just know like a lot of clubs like a big friendly the week before they start the league season, because especially if it's an English team, then that's when they're looking to play. But yeah, that's the League Cup. We'll talk more about the actual draw tomorrow when we do our live tomorrow afternoon when we do the squad analysis. We'll be able to see who Hearts are facing in July and trying to avoid any upsets against. Just before we finish up, as I said, it was just going to be a quick one. What did you make of Derek McInnes' comments last night? I don't know if you read them, from his appearance on the Premier Sports Show, where he talked about it was more, not so much he's obviously still holding out, hoping to keep Shankland, but it was more about what he was looking for in terms of players he would like to add. So he noted that he would like to have a midfielder or a different type of midfielder, and obviously expressed his desire to have some wingers with pace.
And that second one already seems to have been or being addressed with the addition of Kizaridis, and the what's becoming a transfer saga in Islam Chesnikov, which there was an update about today, although from his agent rather than anything concrete from either club or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, I think Camden, I think he knows there's a nucleus of a squad there, and I think he's probably happy that Liam Fox was able to show that towards the end of the season. It's not too dissimilar to like Derek McInnes when he took over at Aberdeen. He took over for the bottom 6 matches, or for some of the bottom 6 matches, and he got to work with the players and that. And I'm hoping that can have some kind of similar effect. I mean, I think with the kind of short turnaround and that kind of thing, I do think that it will have a positive. Hearts will go into next season with a more positive mindset. it's not going to be. It's not like they limped to the end of the season and stayed up on the last day, or avoided 11th on the last day, or anything like that. And it would have been sort of like doom and gloom until you see some tangible progress. Whereas I think there's a bit more optimism with that and the change of manager and things like that. But yeah, it's good that he has identified quickly what he wants and what he needs. It's just a case of now putting trust in the dynamic that Jamestown and the recruitment team come up with the right shortlist, and McInnes selects the right players and then is able to put the right team together.
Yeah, we'll obviously go into a bit more detail about the squad tomorrow. But I think when probably you felt it as well, because we both kind of chipped into it, was there's certain areas of the pitch where there's a lot of options. For example, like centre back, and then like centre midfield, there's quite a lot of options. But he did notice there's a lot of similarities in the midfield.
Right,
whereas I think there is the need for a bigger presence.
George Grant.
Yeah, that we don't. It's kind of the opposite of.
Oh, right. All right. I thought you were meaning there was too many like 8s and 6s and needed something a bit more attacking. So you're talking about something like a bit bigger. I sort of teased someone the last time, and I was thinking about someone along the lines of Killian Phillips. So
yeah,
I don't know. You maybe want to aim a bit higher than a St Mirren midfielder, but I don't know. I'm sure it's not.
It's that profile. It's that profile.
I want to say that I'm saying this based on somebody that I have not watched week in, week out. There's a few times I have seen him that I've thought Hearts could do with a bastard like that in midfield, and he's got the physique to do it as well, and he's got a bit of ability. So that's the guy. That's the kind of thing that I was, and it's like a Derek McInnes type. Derek McInnes would love to have him. The worry would be that he wasn't so good at Aberdeen before he was at St Mirren. But me plucking a name out the air and Hearts coming up with that same name is like there's absolutely no chance of that happening. So like you say, it's more like the profile. So yeah, it's good that he's identifying that kind of thing. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but Hearts were far too small going into last season. I think that's something else. Not enough forward options, not enough pace in key areas, and not big enough. And I think those are three things that need to be and look like they are being addressed going into next season.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only thing, other interest that I took from his comments was he talked about a midfielder that where is it? He said a lot more pace in wide areas, in the wider areas. If everyone knows Hearts needed that. Players that are happy hugging the touchline, happy 1v1. So Kizaridis and Chesnikov for happy 1v1, but they're not really touchline wingers. They are more inverted. So I wonder if those two, well, Kizaridis already added, if Chesnikov arrives, that they might be looking at one other wide option, which is again when doing the squad analysis, it is the top end of the pitch, and the different option in midfield are the ones that I think is clear that Hearts need to look at and add this window. But we'll discuss that in more depth tomorrow. We will leave it there.
I was just want to add something really quickly before you finish up. It will be based on what you've said there. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Vargas then, because short of him being sold, which is still a possibility, it'll be interesting to see what McInnes will like his attributes and think he can get something out of him. Whether he sees him as a wide option or through the middle, he likes to play a strike partnership. You said he likes to have 5 strikers. That might be one of his 5 options up front, but that's one that will be interesting to see how he uses Vargas going forward.
Exactly what I wrote in my squad analysis. No, it's more just no, absolutely not. It just that's what I thought. I thought he's up there with one of the more individuals who've got a really interesting someone ahead of them, and just to see how he fits in with that squad. So, that's I 100% agree. We will leave it there. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Like I said, we'll be back with lives later on this week. Well, Wednesday, hopefully Friday. Again, things can change as the week progresses, but be sure to check out heartstandard.co.uk for all the latest from all the latest from Hartlepool Football Club, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already done so on YouTube. We're trying to push towards 3,000 subscribers, and your help will get us there. Until the next time, thank you very much, and goodbye.